He should not have said it out loud, but once the words left my mouth, there was no taking them back. I don't know how to be his father. The sentence hung in the quiet kitchen like something fragile and dangerous. Lena Brooks stood across from me holding 2 mugs of coffee. My 5-year-old son was sitting at the table behind her drawing dinosaurs with a green crayon, and for a second the whole room felt too small for the truth I had just spoken. Lena didn't look shocked. She just looked sad. Then she said the one sentence that changed everything. "Ethan, your son thinks you're going to leave him again." My chest tightened so fast I couldn't breathe. Because the worst part was, I knew she was right. How did the girl from across the street see the one thing I had spent months pretending wasn't there? 3 weeks earlier, I came back to Maple Ridge with everything I owned packed into the back of a moving truck and one small boy holding my hand like I might disappear if he let go. The truck hadn't even pulled away yet when I saw her. Lena Brooks. She was standing on the porch across the street, one hand resting on the railing, watching us the way someone watches a storm roll in. I hadn't seen her in almost 15 years. Back when we were kids, she used to skateboard down Elm Street every summer evening. I used to watch her from my bedroom window, pretending I wasn't waiting for the moment she looked up and waved. She always waved, even when I was too shy to walk outside and talk to her. Now she was standing there again, older but unmistakably the same. Dark hair pulled into a loose ponytail, worn jeans, bare feet on the wooden porch. She looked like someone who belonged here. I felt like a stranger. "Daddy," Cameron whispered beside me. I looked down. My son was clutching his stuffed elephant with both hands. His dark curls were sticking out in every direction from the long drive, and his eyes were studying the house like he was trying to decide if it was safe. "Is this our house now?" The question hit harder than I expected. Our house. I looked up at the old colonial my parents had left behind, white paint peeling from the shutters, the maple tree out front taller than I remembered, the swing set in the backyard leaning slightly to one side. Everything looked exactly like my childhood, and nothing felt the same. "Yeah, buddy," I said quietly, "this is home." The word felt strange. For 7 years, home had been a military cot in Afghanistan, a temporary bunk in Germany, a cramped apartment near a base in Colorado, then a string of cheap motels after my divorce. Home had never stayed still long enough to mean anything, but Cameron needed it to mean something. That was the whole reason we came back. "Daddy." He tugged my hand again. "The swing is broken." I followed his gaze. The old metal swing set in the backyard had rusted badly. One of the chains hung loose and the seat touched the grass. "I'll fix it," I told him. Kids believe things like that when you say them. They believe their dad can fix anything. I just hoped I wasn't lying. Across the street, Lena raised her hand in a small wave. The same wave she used to give me when we were teenagers. Simple, friendly, familiar. I lifted my hand back. For a moment our eyes met and something strange happened. She didn't look surprised to see me. She looked like she had been expecting me. Then she disappeared back into her house. "Do you know her?" Cameron asked. "Yeah," I said. "We grew up together." "Is she nice?" I watched the front door across the street close. "Yeah, buddy," I said quietly, "she's nice." That first night in the house felt like sleeping inside someone else's memory. The floors creaked in the same places they used to when I was a kid. The kitchen still smelled faintly like the cinnamon potpourri my mother loved. The silence felt heavier. When Cameron finally fell asleep upstairs, I sat on the front porch steps with a bottle of cheap beer and tried to remember the last time life had felt normal. The answer was before the army, before the war, before my marriage fell apart. Across the street, a light flicked on in Lena's living room window. I could see her silhouette moving inside. For some reason, that small sign of life made the whole street feel less empty. A few minutes later, there was a knock at my door. When I opened it, Lena was standing there holding a casserole dish wrapped in foil. "Hi," she said softly. Her voice hadn't changed, still warm, still a little raspy. "I figured you probably don't have groceries yet." I blinked. "You made food." She held up the dish. "Lasagna." "You didn't have to do that." "I know," she said, "but I wanted to." I took the dish. It was warm, and something about that simple gesture made my throat tighten unexpectedly. "Thank you," I said. "You're welcome." She glanced over my shoulder into the half-unpacked living room. "How's the house?" "Like it's been empty for 2 years." She laughed quietly. "Sounds about right." For a second neither of us spoke. Then she said something that caught me completely off guard. "I was really glad when I heard you were coming back." I frowned. "You heard?" "Small towns," she said. "News travels." I rubbed the back of my neck. "Yeah, I guess it does." She shifted slightly on the porch. "I should let you get settled. But if you need help fixing things around here." She nodded toward the backyard. "That swing set looks like it could use some attention." I followed her gaze. "You noticed that already?" "I notice things," she said simply. Before I could respond, small footsteps padded down the hallway behind me. Cameron appeared in the doorway, rubbing his eyes. "Daddy, who's that?" Lena crouched down immediately so she was at his height. "Hi," she said gently. "I'm Lena. I live across the street." Cameron looked at the casserole dish in my hands. "You brought us food." "I did." He thought about that, then nodded seriously. "That's nice." Lena smiled. "You're right, it is." For a moment she and Cameron just looked at each other. And something about the way she spoke to him, like he was a real person, not just a kid, made something inside my chest loosen. "Okay," she said, standing again. "I'll let you two eat." She started down the porch steps, then paused. "Ethan." "Yeah." She looked back at me. "It's good to have you home." I didn't know how to answer that, because the truth was, I wasn't sure I knew how to be home anymore. 3 weeks later, Lena was standing in my kitchen holding 2 mugs of coffee. Cameron was at the table coloring dinosaurs, and I had just said the one thing I'd been afraid to admit since coming back. I don't know how to be his father. Lena studied me carefully. Then she glanced toward Cameron. He was drawing 3 stick figures now, one big, one small, and one with long hair. Lena turned back to me. "Ethan, your son thinks you're going to leave him again." The words landed like a punch. "He doesn't. He watches the door every time you leave the room," she said gently, "and he flinches when you raise your voice." I closed my eyes because I had seen those things too. I had just been pretending they weren't real. "I'm trying," I said quietly. "I know you are." "Then why does it feel like I'm failing him?" Lena stepped closer. Her voice softened. "Because you're not broken, Ethan. You're just scared." I looked at her. "Of what?" She nodded toward Cameron. "Of loving him enough that losing him would destroy you." The room went quiet. Cameron held up his drawing. "Daddy, look." 3 stick figures holding hands. "That's us," he said proudly. And suddenly, I realized something terrifying. For the first time since coming home from war, I wasn't fighting alone anymore, but the question still lingered in my mind. Why was Lena Brooks showing up for us like this? And what did she know about my past that I didn't realize she had seen all along? Cameron held up the drawing like it was the most important thing in the world. 3 stick figures, one tall, one small, one with long hair, all holding hands. "That's us," he said proudly. I stared at the picture longer than I meant to, because something about it made my chest tight. The tall stick figure had messy hair like mine. The small one had a round head and 2 crooked legs. And the one in the middle, the one with long hair, that was Lena. "You put Miss Lena in the picture?" I asked. Cameron shrugged like it was obvious. "She helps us." Lena went very still beside the kitchen counter. Neither of us corrected him. After Cameron ran upstairs to find more crayons, the kitchen fell quiet again. Lena set the coffee mugs down slowly. "You're doing better than you think," she said. I leaned against the counter and shook my head. "You saw him. He thinks I'm leaving." "That's not because you're a bad father," she said softly. "It's because he's 5." I looked at her. "And because kids remember when people disappear." The words landed heavier than they should have. "His mom didn't disappear," I said automatically. Lena nodded. I know, but she moved away, and before that you were gone a lot. She wasn't accusing me. That somehow made it worse. I was deployed, I muttered. I didn't have a choice. I know that too. Her voice stayed calm, but Cameron didn't choose it either. I rubbed my face. That kid deserves someone better than me. Lena didn't hesitate. No, she said firmly, he deserves you. I laughed quietly. You barely know me. She studied me for a moment. I know enough. Something about the way she said it made me look at her differently. Lena, why are you doing this? Doing what? Showing up every day, helping with the house, bringing food, talking to my kid like he matters. She leaned back against the counter. Because someone did that for me once. I frowned. Who? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked around the kitchen. Her eyes moved across the cabinets, the old table, the cracked tile floor. This house hasn't changed much, she said quietly. My mom kept it that way. I know. You used to come here. She nodded. When we were teenagers. That surprised me. I don't remember that. You wouldn't, she said with a small smile. You were usually upstairs studying or pretending not to notice me skateboarding past your house. I felt my ears heat. Okay, I noticed. Her smile widened slightly. I know. The silence between us felt different now. Not awkward, just full. My dad lost his job when I was 16, Lena said after a moment. The factory shut down overnight. I waited. My parents fought constantly after that, she continued. Money, bills, everything. Her fingers traced the edge of the kitchen table. Some nights I'd sit on my porch and listen to them yelling through the walls. I could picture it. Elm Street was small enough that everyone knew when someone's life started falling apart. What does that have to do with my mom? I asked. Lena looked up. Your mother noticed. Of course she had. My mother noticed everything. She never said anything about it directly, Lena continued, but she started inviting me over. For what? Cookies, gardening, random things. A faint smile touched her face. Once she called me over because she said she needed help picking tomatoes. I could practically hear my mother's voice. Did she really? Lena shook her head. There were only 4 tomatoes. Despite myself, I laughed. Yeah, that sounds like her. She knew I needed somewhere quiet, Lena said. She just made it look like I was helping her instead of the other way around. I swallowed. She was good at that. She made me feel like I mattered. The room fell silent again. Then Lena met my eyes. So when you showed up here 3 weeks ago looking like the world had chewed you up and spit you back out. She gestured toward the house. I figured it was my turn. Something shifted inside my chest. You're helping me because of my mom. I'm helping you because I want to. She hesitated. But your mom reminded me what showing up for someone looks like. Upstairs, Cameron's footsteps thundered across the hallway. Daddy. He appeared at the top of the stairs, holding another drawing. I made a dinosaur with wings. Is it a flying dinosaur? Lena asked. Cameron's face lit up. Yes. He ran down the stairs and slid into the chair beside the table. I'm going to make the swing fly too. I blinked. The swing. Yeah, he said, when you fix it. I glanced toward the backyard through the window. The rusted swing set leaned slightly to one side. I'll work on it tomorrow, I said. Promise. Promise. Cameron nodded seriously. Then he turned to Lena. Will you come watch? Lena looked at me before answering. If your dad says it's okay. I shrugged. Extra help never hurts. Cameron grinned. Good. He returned to his drawing like the decision had already been made. The next afternoon, the 3 of us stood in the backyard, staring at the swing set. It looked worse up close. Rust flaked from the metal frame. One chain hung loose. The seat had cracked. Looks like it survived a war, Lena said. I snorted. Funny. Cameron bounced beside us. Can we fix it today? I grabbed a wrench from the toolbox. We can start. Lena rolled up the sleeves of her flannel shirt. I'll hold the ladder. You don't have to. Stop arguing. She grabbed the ladder anyway. Fine, I muttered. We worked for almost 2 hours. I tightened bolts. Lena sanded rust off the frame. Cameron ran tools back and forth like the world's most enthusiastic assistant. At one point, Lena wiped sweat from her forehead and laughed. You know what this feels like? What? Normal. I looked at Cameron pushing a wheelbarrow full of leaves. Yeah, I said quietly, it does. By sunset, the swing set stood straight again. The seat still needed replacing, but the frame was solid. Try it, I told Cameron. His eyes widened. Really? Really? He climbed onto the swing and pushed off gently. The chains creaked. Then the swing moved smoothly through the air. Cameron's laughter exploded across the yard. Daddy, look. I see you. Higher. Lena leaned against the fence watching him. You did good, she said. It's just a swing. It's not just a swing. I followed her gaze. Cameron pumped his legs harder, soaring higher. The sunset lit his hair orange. It's the first thing he's trusted here, Lena said softly. Her words sat heavy in the evening air. For the first time since coming back. I believed maybe I could fix more than just broken metal. But as Cameron swung higher and higher, a black BMW rolled slowly down Elm Street, and something about the way it stopped in front of Lena's house made the back of my neck tighten, because the man stepping out of that car looked like the kind of trouble that doesn't leave quietly. The black BMW idled in front of Lena's house like it owned the street. The engine purred softly, expensive, out of place in Maple Ridge. I wiped grease from my hands and watched the driver's door open. A tall man stepped out, perfect hair, perfect jacket, the kind of confidence that comes from believing the world rearranges itself for you. He closed the door slowly and looked straight at Lena. Hey, Lena. Her body went completely still beside the fence. Cameron was still swinging behind us, laughing like nothing in the world could go wrong, but Lena's face had drained of color. Marcus, she said quietly. The name hung in the air. The man smiled like this reunion had been his idea of a pleasant surprise. Long time. I glanced at Lena. You know him. She didn't answer right away. Marcus walked across the street like he had every right to be there. His eyes flicked over me once, then toward Cameron on the swing, then back to Lena. You going to introduce me? He asked. Lena crossed her arms. No. The smile on his face tightened. Still dramatic, I see. I stepped forward slightly without thinking. Something you need. Marcus finally looked at me properly. Who are you? Neighbor. Hey. His eyes dropped to the wrench in my hand. You fixing things around here? Trying to. Marcus laughed softly. Good luck with that. Then he turned back to Lena like I had stopped existing. I've been trying to reach you. You were blocked. Yeah, I noticed. Cameron's swing slowed behind us. Daddy, he called. It's okay, buddy, I said without looking back. Keep swinging. Marcus shoved his hands in his pockets. You going to talk to me or keep pretending I'm invisible? Lena's voice stayed calm. You should leave. Come on. I'm serious. After 3 years together, you're not even going to hear me out. 3 years, that explained the tension in her shoulders. Marcus stepped closer. You owe me 5 minutes. Lena shook her head. I don't owe you anything. He leaned in. I moved across the state to fix things with you. I didn't ask you to. His voice dropped. You didn't have to. Something in his tone made Cameron stop swinging completely. The chains creaked as the swing came to rest. I stepped between Marcus and Lena without thinking. That's close enough. Marcus blinked, then laughed. Oh. He looked at Lena again. This is what we're doing now. Lena's jaw tightened. Yes. Marcus looked me up and down slowly. You're kidding. I didn't respond. You replaced me with a small-town handyman. My grip tightened on the wrench. I work construction, I said evenly. Good for you. He gestured toward Cameron. And you're playing house too. That did it. Watch your mouth. Marcus raised both hands. Relax, soldier. The word soldier hit harder than it should have. How'd you know that? I asked. He smirked. Internet. Lena stepped forward. Marcus, stop. But he kept talking. You disappear for years, he said to her. And the first guy who shows up with a tool belt and a kid suddenly gets the whole fairytale ending. That's enough, Lena snapped. Marcus looked surprised. You used to listen when I talked. I used to make a lot of mistakes. The words came out sharper now. You were the biggest one. His smile faded. Careful. No. Lena stepped fully beside me now. Her voice shook slightly, but she didn't back down. I spent 3 years letting you decide who I was allowed to be. Marcus's expression hardened. That's not what happened. That's exactly what happened. You're rewriting history. No, she said. I'm finally telling the truth. The street had gone quiet. Even Cameron wasn't moving. Marcus ran a hand through his hair. You're really throwing all of that away. I already did. For this guy. For myself. The words landed like a hammer. Marcus stared at her for a long moment. Then his eyes shifted toward Cameron again. That kid even yours. The air changed instantly. Careful, I said. Marcus tilted his head. Touchy subject. Leave. Or what? I stepped closer. Up close I could see the calculation in his eyes. He was used to people backing down. I've had worse mornings than you, I said quietly. Something about my voice must have registered. Because the confidence cracked slightly. Lena, he said finally, you're making a mistake. Maybe, she said, but it's my mistake to make. Marcus looked between us. Then he shook his head and walked back toward his car. He stopped beside the BMW door. You'll regret this. Then he got in and drove away. The street fell silent again. Cameron's small voice broke the quiet. Daddy. I turned. He was standing beside the swing now. Was that a bad man? Lena knelt down in front of him. Not bad, she said gently. Just someone who forgot how to be kind. Cameron thought about that. Then he nodded. Okay. He looked between us. Can we keep fixing the swing? Lena laughed softly. Of course. He ran back toward the yard like nothing had happened. I exhaled slowly. You all right? Lena nodded. Yeah. You handled that pretty well. I had good backup. I leaned against the fence. You didn't need me. Maybe not. She looked at Cameron soaring through the air again. But I'm glad you were here. For a moment neither of us spoke. Then Cameron jumped off the swing and ran over. Look. He held up a folded piece of paper. I made another picture. Lena took it carefully. 3 stick figures again. But this time there was something new. A 4th figure on the far side of the page, crossed out with a big red crayon. What's that? Lena asked gently. Cameron shrugged. The guy who yelled. My chest tightened. And these, I asked. He pointed proudly. That's me. Then Lena, then me. The 3 stick figures were still holding hands. Lena looked up at me. Something emotional flickered across her face. He draws us like that every day, she said quietly. Every day. I stared at the picture, and something shifted inside me again, because somewhere along the way, this stopped being a temporary stop in my life. It had started becoming something permanent. But deep down I knew something else too. People like Marcus didn't disappear forever. And if he came back, next time he might not just be looking for a conversation. Marcus didn't come back the next day, or the day after that. But people like Marcus never really disappear. They just wait until they think you've relaxed, until they think you've stopped watching the road. A week later I was on the back porch, fixing the last piece of the swing set when Cameron burst through the screen door. Daddy. His voice was excited and breathless. Miss Lena is crying. The wrench slipped from my hand. What? She's on her porch. I was already moving. When I stepped across the street, Lena was sitting on the wooden steps outside her house with a letter in her hands. Her eyes were red. She tried to wipe them quickly when she saw me. Hey. Hey, I said carefully. What happened? She looked down at the paper again. Marcus. My jaw tightened. What did he do? He didn't come back to argue. Then what? He sent lawyers. I frowned. For what? Lena exhaled slowly. He owns half this house. The words didn't make sense at first. You bought it together. She nodded once, 3 years ago. And now? Now he wants me to sell. Cameron had followed me across the street and was standing quietly near the steps. Why? He asked. Lena tried to smile at him. Because sometimes people want control more than they want peace. I felt something cold settle in my chest. When? 30 days. The number echoed in my head. 30 days until she lost the house she loved. 30 days until the one person who had helped my son feel safe disappeared from across the street. That's not happening, I said. Lena gave a tired laugh. You don't get to decide that. Watch me. The next few weeks turned into something I hadn't expected. A fight, not the kind I'd known in the army. No explosions, no gunfire. Just paperwork, meetings, lawyers, long nights. Lena tried to handle everything herself, but Maple Ridge had other ideas, because small towns remember the people who show up. The mechanic down the street helped fix Lena's roof for free. Mrs. Donnelly from the bakery started bringing food every morning. Even the town lawyer cut his fees in half. One night Lena stood in the middle of her living room surrounded by paperwork and shook her head. I don't understand. Understand what? I asked. Why everyone is helping. I leaned against the wall. Because you helped them first. She looked at me. I didn't do anything special. You did, I said. You showed up. That was enough. 3 weeks later Marcus came back, but this time he wasn't smiling. He stood on the sidewalk holding a folder of documents. You've made this unnecessarily complicated, he said. Lena stood beside me on the porch. I'm protecting what's mine. Marcus sighed. You can't afford the buyout. We'll see. His eyes shifted to me. Let me guess, the soldier is funding this heroic stand. I didn't respond. Marcus shook his head. You really think this ends well? No, Lena said calmly. I think it ends fairly. He opened the folder and handed her a page. Last offer. She looked at it, then looked at me. I didn't need to read the numbers. I could see the answer in her eyes. Marcus smiled slowly. Exactly. The silence stretched. Then Lena folded the paper in half. No. Marcus blinked. You're rejecting it. Yes. You can't pay the other half. I know. Then you're losing the house. Lena stepped closer. Maybe. Marcus laughed. You're unbelievable. He turned toward me again. Tell her she's being stupid. I looked at him calmly. No. Marcus frowned. Why not? Because the truth had been sitting in my chest for weeks now, and I finally understood it. I'm buying your half. The street went completely still. Marcus stared at me. You're what? I'm buying your half. Lena's head snapped toward me. Ethan. I've got the money. Marcus scoffed. From construction work. From the house I sold in Colorado. That wiped the smile off his face. Why would you do that? I looked at Lena, then at Cameron playing with a toy truck near the porch steps. Because some things are worth fighting for. Marcus studied me for a long moment, then he laughed once. You're serious. Very. He shook his head. Fine. He signed the paper quickly. Enjoy your little fairy tale. Then he walked back to his BMW and drove away for the last time. The porch stayed quiet after the car disappeared. Lena was still staring at me. You didn't have to do that. I know. That was your savings. I know. Her voice softened. Why? I looked at the house. then across the street at mine, then at Cameron running back and forth between the yards like there was no line separating them, because to him, there wasn't one, because you gave my son something I couldn't, I said. What? A reason to believe people stay. Lena's eyes filled again. You just changed your whole life for us. No. I shook my head. You changed it first. Cameron ran up to us holding another drawing. Look. 3 stick figures again, but this time there was a house in the middle and both yards were connected. No fences, he explained proudly. Lena laughed softly. I like that idea. Me too, I said. 6 months later, the wedding was held under the maple tree in my front yard. Cameron insisted on being the one who carried the rings. He walked down the grass path holding a small wooden box like it was the most important mission in the world. When Lena reached me at the end of the aisle, she whispered something only I could hear. You know what the real miracle is? What? You came home from war, and you didn't stay broken. I squeezed her hand. That's because someone across the street decided I was worth fixing. The crowd laughed when Cameron shouted from the front row, now kiss already. And for the first time in a long time, the future didn't feel like something I had to survive. It felt like something I could build, because in the end, some battles aren't won on distant battlefields. They're won in quiet neighborhoods with small hands holding yours and someone brave enough to say the one sentence that changes everything. And sometimes, the bravest thing a man can do after war